All right, let's jump right into this explainer and look at English grammar from a totally different angle. If you're an intermediate student, you probably already have a solid grip on your basic tenses and vocabulary. But bridging that gap between simply being understood and actually writing with real, undeniable power, well, that requires a shift in perspective. Today, we're going to look at your writing through the eyes of an advanced editor. We'll be using concepts from the absolute gold standard for learners, Raymond Murphy's English Grammar in Use, to tackle those tricky structural errors that consistently trap intermediate writers. And most importantly, we're going to give you the practical, self-study tools to actually fix them. So here is our quick triage list for today's session. 1. The intermediate trap. 2. Fixing loose connections. 3. The clarity edit. And 4. The dangling participle. Kicking things off with section 1, the intermediate trap, and how to break the monotony. Now, when you're first learning a language, your primary goal is honestly just getting the words out, right? But an editor looks at the rhythm. A crucial point in intermediate grammar is that newer writers often construct whole paragraphs with this mechanical sing-song rhythm. You write one idea, attach an and. Write another idea, attach a but, and so on. As Murphy's principles highlight, while linking basic ideas is totally fine, a continuous series of them quickly becomes flat, repetitive, and frankly, a bit tiring to read. Let's think about a story of a simple cafe visit. If you were just writing casually, you might be tempted to say something like, I went to the cafe and I ordered a coffee and it was crowded, so I sat outside. Do you hear that mechanical, repetitive rhythm? It practically puts the reader to sleep. An editor's red pen would immediately strike through all those repeated connecting words. Instead, you'd recast the paragraph to connect the ideas in a way that shows their true relationship, creating a varied, highly professional flow. Moving right along to section 2, fixing loose connections, focusing on the mechanics. We're tackling punctuation here. I know a lot of intermediate learners are terrified of punctuation marks beyond the basic period and comma, but mastering them is literally your secret weapon. The overarching philosophy for our sentence structure today echoes standard intermediate teachings. You absolutely cannot just glue two complete thoughts together with a lonely little comma. It's a super common intermediate error known as a comma splice. Let's turn this into a mechanical, step-by-step process for your own self-study editing. It is incredibly simple. Step 1, look at your sentence and ask, are there two complete, independent thoughts here? Step 2, if they're joined by just a comma with no connecting word like and or but, you take that comma right out. Step 3, drop in a semicolon. Boom, fixed. It is nearly 5:30. We cannot reach town before dark. Those are two entirely complete sentences improperly glued together. Now swap that comma for a semicolon. It does so much more than just fix a grammar error. It actually suggests a really close cause and effect relationship between the time and the inability to reach town. It's briefer and far more confident than just throwing a random connecting word in there. All right, let's jump into section 3, the clarity edit, where we start slashing weak prose. This is where you transform from an intermediate student into a commanding writer. There is a famous editing maxim: omit needless words. Make every single word tell. Now, this doesn't mean you can only write short, choppy sentences or that you can't use descriptive details. It simply means that if a word isn't doing any heavy lifting in your sentence, it needs to be cut. Clear writing is concise writing. It is amazing how easily we can prune dead weight. Why write out the question as to whether when the single word whether means the exact same thing? Why write owing to the fact that when you can just say since or because? Actually, as an editor, I highly recommend you take the phrase the fact that and revise it completely out of your vocabulary. It's almost always a sign of hesitant, overly wordy writing that intermediate students tend to lean on way too heavily. Think of this next part as a thrilling rescue operation. Imagine a long, choppy, 51-word summary of the play Macbeth that presents a single complex idea step by painful step. Macbeth was very ambitious. This led him to wish to become king. Now, what if we condense that exact same information by combining clauses? Encouraged by his wife, Macbeth achieved his ambition. We just turned a 51-word ramble into a tight 26-word narrative, half the length but twice the impact. That is the raw power of the red pen. Another massive game changer in the clarity edit is activating your voice. Intermediate learners often fall back on the passive voice because, honestly, it feels a bit more formal or academic, but in reality, it usually just drains the absolute life out of your writing.
Listen to this passive sentence. My first visit to Boston will always be remembered by me. It's tame, hesitant, and just less bold. Now let's flip it to the active version. I shall always remember my first visit to Boston. See how that puts the actor right at the very front of the sentence? It is direct, it is concise. Using the active voice regularly is a surefire way to make your writing sound incredibly powerful and confident. You also want to put your statements in a positive form. He did not think that studying Latin was much use. Do you hear how that uses the word not to kind of avoid making a strong point? It sounds weak. Compare that to, he thought the study of Latin useless. That makes a definite, bold assertion. Consciously or unconsciously, readers are dissatisfied with being told only what is not. They want to be told what is. Let's move to section 4, the dangling participle. Time for a deep dive. This is one of the most confusing errors that trap intermediate learners, and it can completely ruin your clarity, often without you even realizing you've done it. The rule is simple. A participial phrase at the beginning of a sentence absolutely must refer to the grammatical subject of that sentence. If you break this rule, you create a dangling participle, and the resulting sentence isn't just grammatically wrong, it's usually unintentionally hilarious. Take this classic bad example. Walking slowly down the road, he saw a woman accompanied by 2 children. The word walking is our participle. Because of where it's placed at the start, the grammar strictly dictates that the subject, he, is the one walking. But contextually, the writer clearly meant the woman was walking. We have to recast it so the phrase modifies the right noun. So we change it to, he saw a woman accompanied by 2 children walking slowly down the road. Here's another one that brilliantly illustrates just how funny these errors can be. Being in a dilapidated condition, I was able to buy the house very cheap. Ask yourself, based strictly on the grammar here, is the speaker in a dilapidated condition, meaning falling apart, or is the house? Grammatically, the speaker is claiming to be a total wreck. You fix this simply by turning the starting phrase into a dependent clause. I was able to buy the house very cheap because it was in a dilapidated condition. So, here is your quick checklist to identify and fix these dangling participles during your own self-study sessions. 1. Scan your writing for any ing phrases at the very start of a sentence. 2. Find the very first noun or pronoun right after that phrase. 3. Ask yourself literally, is this subject actually doing the ing action? And 4, if the answer is no, get out your red pen and recast that sentence. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought about your own language journey. If you stepped back right now and became an advanced editor reading your own writing, how much red ink would you honestly need? Would your page be completely covered in corrections for comma places, needless words, and dangling participles? By applying these mechanical, step-by-step editing techniques to your self-study, you can elevate your English from merely intermediate to truly masterful. Keep practicing, keep editing, and remember, make every single word tell.